Hello everyone, welcome to Celebrities Farm. Today we're going to talk about an issue that's worrying farmers across the United States. A new exotic visitor, who is not at all welcome, is invading rural properties and causing havoc in crops and local ecosystems. And this visitor, my friends, is a deer that never should have arrived here. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to deal with an animal species that is not native to your country, but is rapidly spreading and affecting rural life? Well, that's the nightmare many farmers are facing today, with the emergence of a new species of exotic deer that is taking over several areas in the United States. This deer, which comes from regions in Asia, has adapted very well to the American environment. And the results of this invasion have been dramatic. Crops are being devastated, and many ecosystems are being disrupted by this invader. And the most alarming part is that it's spreading quickly, and even experts don't know exactly how to effectively handle it. In this video, we will explore what's happening, the impacts this invasion is causing, the solutions being tried to control the problem, and of course, what farmers are doing to protect their land. So if you want to learn everything about this exotic deer and what's being done to try and control its population, keep watching. Now that you have an idea of what's happening, let's dive deeper into the history of this invasive species. The deer causing all this uproar is known as Cervus albirostris, a deer native to Central Asia, specifically the mountainous regions of the Himalayas, including countries like Nepal, India, and China. But how did it end up in the United States? In fact, the arrival of this deer in the United States was no accident. It was intentionally introduced, often with the aim of enriching the local wildlife or even for sport hunting. However, what experts didn't foresee was how well this species would adapt to the new environment. The Cervus albirostris has no natural predators in the US, and the lack of competition with native species allowed it to proliferate uncontrollably. This deer is distinct from other native North American deer due to its imposing size and territorial behavior. With a varied diet that includes grass, leaves, and even tree bark, it has proven highly adaptable to different types of ecosystems. Its insatiable appetite and ability to reproduce rapidly are factors that make it a true nightmare for farmers. Moreover, it has an invasive nature, competing with native species for food and space, which threatens local biodiversity. It's also responsible for damaging agricultural crops and native vegetation, altering the ecosystem it inhabits profoundly. However, the impact isn't just limited to ecological and agricultural issues. The exotic deer is also creating problems for local wildlife. With the lack of natural predators and the increasing population of these deer, farmers are facing an ongoing battle to control this new threat. Farmers facing the invasion of Cervus albirostris aren't just dealing with the presence of an exotic animal. They're facing a real threat to their agricultural production and livelihood. The impact of this deer on farms across the United States is immense, and its effects can be devastating for those who depend on the land to survive. First, let's talk about crop consumption. The deer is a herbivore, and as I've already mentioned, it has an insatiable appetite. It doesn't discriminate and feeds on almost anything it finds, from crops like corn, wheat, soy, and beans to garden plants and fruit trees. This destruction of crops not only reduces harvests, but also increases costs for farmers who need to invest more in fences and protective measures for their crops. In addition to the direct damage to crops, the deer also causes significant harm to fences and enclosures. Many farmers report that the deer, in trying to cross the fences, end up destroying entire structures, creating gaps that allow other animals to enter, or even putting the safety of domestic animals and livestock at risk. This kind of damage isn't easy to repair, and the additional costs of fixing fences or reinforcing protections can be a heavy burden on a farm's budget. Another important impact is the pressure on native vegetation. By feeding on local plants, the deer hinders the growth of other native species, causing an imbalance in the ecosystem. This can lead to a loss of biodiversity, affecting both the fauna and flora of the surrounding environment. In areas where the deer establishes itself, native vegetation begins to disappear, and plants crucial for sustaining other animal species can be compromised. In some areas, the impact goes beyond agriculture. Farmers also have to deal with the risk of diseases like Lyme disease, which is transmitted by ticks present on some deer. These ticks can infect livestock and other farm animals, as well as pose a risk to humans themselves. Therefore, the impact on agriculture goes far beyond the simple destruction of crops. It affects the health of the ecosystem, the safety of animals, and the balance of the entire rural production. Farmers are fighting against a threat that doesn't just limit itself to one aspect of farm life, but impacts all levels of production and well-being. Now that we understand the devastating impacts of the exotic deer invasion, it's time to talk about the control efforts and measures being implemented to protect farms and the ecosystem. Although the Cervus albirostris has spread rapidly, farmers, along with authorities and experts, are trying to find solutions to contain this threat. But as we'll see, the process is not easy. The first line of defense most commonly used against the invasion of exotic deer is the construction of taller and stronger fences. Deer have an impressive ability to jump over fences, and many farmers are investing in taller fences or even electric fences to try to keep these animals away from their crops and properties. However, this solution comes with a high cost, and it is not always 100% effective. Deer still manage to find gaps, especially when fence maintenance is lacking. In addition, controlled hunting programs have been implemented in some areas. Hunting exotic deer is a measure adopted to reduce their populations and minimize the damage caused. These hunting programs are regulated by local authorities and are carefully monitored to ensure that hunting does not become uncontrolled and that the deer are hunted ethically. Hunting also helps reduce the impact on other native species, as the competition for resources decreases with the reduction of the invasive deer population. Another strategy being considered is the use of natural repellents and biological control techniques. Some farmers have tried using natural substances, such as essential oils or garlic solutions, to keep deer away from specific areas. While these solutions are less invasive, they're also less effective in large areas and require constant application to have an impact. Additionally, research is being conducted on how to introduce natural predators of deer to try to balance the population. However, this is a solution that involves many challenges, especially due to concerns about the impacts that new predators could have on the local ecosystem. The introduction of natural predators, such as wolves or large cats, could end up causing more problems than solutions, as these species could negatively affect other parts of the local fauna. In some situations, farmers are organizing in groups to create physical barriers and increase surveillance on their properties. These groups have proven effective in coordinating efforts to protect large areas, with the installation of fences and continuous monitoring of deer populations. This kind of collaboration can be an important step toward a more effective approach to managing the problem. Therefore, solutions for controlling the exotic deer invasion are complex and require a combination of approaches. There is no single, simple solution, but rather a series of strategies that must be applied in a coordinated and ongoing manner. The fight to contain the Cervus albirostris is a tough job, but it is essential to protect agriculture and ecosystems in the United States. As the problem of the exotic deer invasion continues to grow, one of the most effective approaches to dealing with it has been collaboration between farmers, local communities, and authorities. After all, a problem of this magnitude can't be solved by a single person or entity. It requires collective efforts, resource sharing, and a coordinated strategy among all involved. Farmers in many regions have come together to form mutual support groups. These groups collaborate to implement large-scale control measures, such as the installation of fences and conducting deer population monitoring programs. Together, farmers can protect more areas effectively, distribute the costs of implementing solutions, and even share information about what has or hasn't worked on their properties. Moreover, these communities can organize to carry out controlled hunting events more efficiently. Instead of each farmer trying to tackle the situation on their own, they coordinate hunts in groups, increasing effectiveness and allowing resources to be used more smartly. This not only helps reduce the deer population, but also minimizes costs and the impact on the local ecosystem. The support of local authorities is also crucial. State and local governments have become more involved in seeking solutions to this problem. In addition to controlled hunting programs, some areas are offering financial incentives to farmers who invest in fences or participate in deer control programs. These incentives help alleviate financial burdens for farmers, enabling them to adopt more effective measures while maintaining a balance between protecting their land and respecting the environment. However, collaboration isn't limited to farmers alone. Environmental organizations, biologists, and wildlife protection groups have also been actively involved in seeking sustainable solutions. They have worked hand in hand with farmers to better understand the impacts of this invasion and develop long-term strategies that won't harm the ecosystem. In some areas, even volunteers have offered to help with fence installation, deer population monitoring, or even to assist in more ecological and ethical ways of controlling animals. This community support has been essential in increasing the reach of control measures and making efforts more effective and sustainable. Therefore, when it comes to solving a problem as complex as the exotic deer invasion, collaboration is key. The unity of farmers, local communities, authorities, and experts is what is making it possible to tackle this challenge more effectively. And if efforts continue along this path, it's possible that, over time, the population of invasive deer will be controlled and the damage caused by this species will be minimized. Although control measures are being implemented, the invasion of Cervus albirostris is a problem that won't disappear immediately. Current solutions may help mitigate the impact, but the effective control of this exotic species requires a continuous, long-term effort. After all, invasive species have a remarkable ability to adapt, meaning the exotic deer will continue to pose challenges for farmers and American ecosystems for quite some time. First, it's important to understand that while controlled hunting programs and the construction of fences are effective in the short term, these measures do not solve the problem definitively. The deer will continue to reproduce and expand unless there is effective control of its population. The reality is that population control can take many years to succeed, requiring a constant commitment from farmers and authorities. Additionally, the introduction of natural predators, such as wolves or big cats, may not be a viable solution. These predators have their own challenges and impacts, and their introduction could cause even greater imbalances in the ecosystem. Some experts believe that biological control through predators is a risky solution, as it may affect not only the deer, but also other native species that are unprepared to face these new predators. On the other hand, scientific research continues to be an important tool in the fight against the invasion. Biologists and ecologists are studying new ways to control the population of invasive deer without harming the local ecosystem. Genetic modification techniques, or even the use of vaccines to reduce the reproduction rate of deer, are areas being explored. But these solutions are still in experimental phases. Furthermore, farmers will need to adapt to a new landscape. The invasion of the exotic deer may permanently alter rural landscapes and require significant changes in how agriculture is conducted. Some areas may need to reassess their farming methods or even reconsider the use of certain lands. In some cases, the presence of the deer may even force farmers to invest in more resistant crops or more advanced protective technologies. And while controlling the deer is a significant challenge, it's important to remember that the impacts are not just economic. There is also a loss of biodiversity and an imbalance in the natural environment. Many native species are struggling to survive due to the pressure from exotic deer, and the domino effect on the ecosystem is something we are still trying to fully understand. In the future, controlling the invasion may depend on even greater collective effort, involving more environmental organizations, research groups, local communities and governments. Public awareness of the issue and continued support for control measures will be crucial in ensuring that this invasive species does not continue to grow and harm ecosystems. Therefore, while the complete solution is still distant, what we know is that the fight against the exotic deer invasion will be an ongoing effort. Everyone has a role to play, from farmers to wildlife experts, and collaboration will be key to minimizing the impacts of this invasive species in the long run. In addition to the direct impacts on farms and agriculture, the invasion of the exotic deer is also affecting other important areas, such as tourism and local wildlife. While the Cervus albirostris is a large species and therefore attractive to hunters and tourists, its presence is also causing serious damage to natural ecosystems and the habitats of other native animal species. First, rural and ecological tourism, which relies on wildlife observation and the preservation of natural environments, is being harmed. Many regions that attract tourists for ecotourism, with hiking trails, wildlife watching and forest tours, are seeing a decline in local biodiversity due to the deer invasion. Native species that were once the focus of tourism, such as deer and other wildlife, are being pressured and displaced by the invasive deer. Additionally, the territorial behavior of the exotic deer has disrupted the balance between species. Many natural predators like wolves and cougars that normally control the population of native deer have less of an impact on the exotic deer due to behavioral and adaptation differences. This creates a void in the ecosystem, where the population of exotic deer grows uncontrollably while native species populations are reduced. This change can be felt on several fronts. Animals that depend on the plants that the deer consume for food may end up being forced to find new habitats or even disappear from certain areas. This creates a domino effect across the ecosystem, affecting the food chain in ways that are not easily reversible. For farmers who rely on tourism to supplement their income, the presence of invasive deer can be a major obstacle. Many tourists seek areas where they can see native wildlife in its natural habitat, but when the invasive deer takes over, the tourism appeal diminishes. Tourists may be disappointed to see that the number of native animals is decreasing and that the natural landscape is being altered. Moreover, hunting the exotic deer, although legal in some areas, has also attracted criticism. On the one hand, it's necessary to control the population of invasive deer, but on the other hand, this hunting can be seen as an incentive for hunting tourism, raising ethical concerns about the sustainability of such activities. The issue of controlled hunting and hunting tourism has become a complicated debate, as it involves both ecosystem preservation and local economies. In summary, the invasion of the exotic deer not only affects farms, but also impacts wildlife, ecotourism, and local communities that rely on biodiversity for their economy and quality of life. The ecological imbalance caused by this invasive species may permanently affect the landscapes and fauna of various regions, forever altering the environment that so attracts tourists and nature enthusiasts. We've reached the end of our video, and now it's time to reflect on everything we've discussed. The invasion of the exotic deer Cervus albirostris in the United States is undoubtedly a serious and complex issue. While various solutions are being applied to control this species, the long-term impact is still uncertain. What we do know is that this problem requires the collaboration of everyone: farmers, authorities, researchers, and even the general public. The fight against this invasion isn't just about protecting crops or local wildlife, but about ensuring that ecosystems don't suffer irreversible changes. The Cervus albirostris can be a threat to many native species, and the ecological balance that takes years to form can be destroyed in just a few years. However, with coordinated actions, creative solutions, and most importantly, a continued commitment from everyone involved, it's possible that the control of this invasion will be achieved. Now, if you're wondering how you can help, the answer is simple: awareness and support for the initiatives being implemented. Supporting public policies that encourage the control of invasive species, promoting education on the importance of preserving native wildlife, and of course, supporting farmers and local communities who are on the front lines of this challenge are direct ways to contribute to this cause. If you're a wildlife fan or interested in learning more about how the impact of invasive species affects our environment, keep following our channel. Here at Celebrities Farm, we always bring you the latest news on life in the countryside, environmental issues affecting our society, and fascinating stories about wildlife and nature around the world. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Oh, and don't forget to comment below on what you think could be done to control invasive species, or if you have any experiences with this kind of issue in other regions. Your opinion is very important to us, and if you like this content, don't miss our next video. We'll continue exploring more about farms, ranches, and how species control is essential for the future of agriculture and nature. See you next time, folks.